Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Toonkind at 12 frames per second. I am Author History. I'll be playing the Ticked Off Chicken. I am joined by the Spectacular.
Oatmeal, hello, and I will be playing the professor.
Alright, man. So, I think that this isn't in the Toontown Library, but it's sort of like, um, I'm sort of picturing that around the back there's sort of like a little, like, grassy area.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the summer, it would be sort of a nice shady place to like read or toss a frisbee around
A
or get up
courtyard.
to shenanigans. Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
yeah. There's a library courtyard.
Mm.
It's a little wintry right now. It's dry and the grass is sort of like that like half-hearted green.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean the benches still work. They're benches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that this is hereabouts where the professor has found himself today. It is up to you what exactly he's doing here.
Hmm. Good question. I think, uh, I think he might be, uh, doing some reading on, uh, I think he might be reading some periodicals, some newspapers and magazines and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have to ask, are they like current newspapers or are these from like are these readings that he's brought with him?
That's a good question. They um they are recent. Although most of them are from Toontown. A few of them are from Villestown.
Mm,
And there's one from Good Time Town, just because he's been there recently too.
nice.
He gets
Um,
around.
whatever else he does that.
Yeah.
Roll me a perception check.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 18.
With an 18, you hear something kind of odd. It sounds like wood being sort of stabbed.
Oh.
Um, on it's on the other side of your newspaper, but you hear it very clearly.
Yeah, that's not good. Typically, he uh, looks. He puts his newspaper down and looks to see what the heck that was.
Mm. Across the corridor, there is a pitchfork sticking out of a tree, and you look up just in time to see a familiar little black chicken with angry eyebrows and little like grandma-ish sort of glasses uh, hop up onto the, the pitchfork handle, sort of like perching on it in its perpendicular, stuck out of a tree state. Um, and they pull out their own book and start reading, as if this is completely totally normal.
uh, um, yeah, he folds the newspaper and puts it down. Um, and he stands up and starts to walk over, and he says, "TOC."
The TikTok chicken looks around and then up because you were very tall, and they sign a sign language hello. And actually, all right, they successfully pull out a notebook, and sort of regard you like they're ready to have a conversation with someone who doesn't speak sign.
Yeah. The professor Actually, he holds up a hand like, wait, and, uh, let me see. I think, because, at this point, he has actually, begun to start, learning. He's just not very good. So I'm gonna roll to see, how well he does. Oh no!
Oh,
I got a crit one. um, so, I was going to roll, to see how well he does, like, signing, to say, like, I'm learning sign language, or, I'm learning tune sign. I know a little bit, but he sort of, like, starts and then, like, completely blanks and, uh, like, starts to sign something else and then stops and just sort of, like, looks frustrated, and then, uh he just says, "Oh, never mind," and he, like, gestures like, "Go ahead and take out the notebook because apparently we're gonna need it today." But he does say out loud. He says, "I had started to learn, so I may not have as much trouble, understanding you, but, I'm still figuring it out."
hmm. They brightened considerably. They had sort of been sort of doing that thing as, like, your head tracks someone's movements as you try to figure out what the goddamn hell they're doing.
Uh
Um, but they knew at you, and they write in their notebook, and then they sign it out slowly. Well, that's more than, frankly, anyone else that I've ever met who didn't already know sign language is done. You're ahead of Seeker.
Oh. Well, I'll, have to, have to encourage him to learn. He, um, it's, at this point we've met too many people, not for it not to be, very useful. Besides that, it's really just the polite thing to do.
Mm.
And I think he tries to throw in, like, signs for what he's saying, as he, says them, but he, like, doesn't get all of them. Just sort of like a word here and there. But,
Yeah, like he's practicing his nouns.
exactly,
Yeah,
he's practicing. Yeah.
yeah. Like TOC is sort of splitting their attention between him and his hands. Like occasionally they'll reach out and, like, bring his one hand a little higher than the other, or being like, "Nope, that's a swear word. You don't want to do that." Um, it. I'm having flashbacks to ASL 101, folks. But yeah, they sort of settle comfortably on their pitchfork perch and sort of regard you like, "Oh, it's good to see you. What brings you out and about today?"
Oh, well, I was just trying to get caught up on, uh, well, on recent news. I finally got, some much needed context, with regards to, uh, history between, Toon and Real Kind, and, I must admit, things make a lot more sense now.
Mm. They sort of nod. They do not themselves know what that context might be, but they're happy the day is going well.
Uh-huh. um, Yeah. He um uh he says, how about you? What is there a particular reason for the pitchfork, or are you just making yourself a nice place to read?
They write all the benches are cold this time of year.
Oh, that's fair.
Mm. And also, and they hold up a feather and sort of hunker down and like uh sort of wait. Um and like they're sort of surveying the courtyard at large.
Uh-huh.
Um and a tune with like um sort of a clown tune in sort of like all pink shades, who seems to be talking very loudly on her cell phone and like yelling at the person on the other side.
Mm.
Um sort of walks by very fast. They've got like the sort of high heels that you should never walk fast in, but he's pulling it off anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um and they pick up a pine cone off the ground, and they sort of hold it in their hands
Mm.
or their wings. And let me check which attack roll this would be, because
It's probably a dex of some sort for an improvised uh, throw.
you know what? Because I am cheating for this first one, but I will look through my character sheet. I should know this while we're talking. But for now, it's a sleight of hand check.
Uh,
That's a 21. So they nail her right in the back of the head.
mm-hmm.
Uh and she she stops yelling and like turns around looking wildly.
Mm-hmm.
And their eyes pass right over TOC because they're a chicken. Why would you
Yeah.
expect a chicken to throw
Oh
anything at
my
you?
god!
Uh, he is sort of giving you a stinky-eyed look, but
He just puts his hands up like I didn't do anything. uh, are you still there? Hello. Ah. Well. uh. Man, even if we stopped to here, I don't think it would be the shortest FPS at 14 minutes. I think there have been shorter. uh, I'm waiting for.
the internet just died.
Oh, Author, there you are!
Hello.
Hi! You're back. Um,
I am so sorry.
that's okay. Basically, after you cut off completely after this person looked at the professor and I said he put his hands up and was like, I didn't do anything, and then you were gone.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I think the only thing I said to the void was like, TUC turns to the professor and says something along the lines of, "I prefer to think of unnecessary rudeness as a sort of a hobby."
Oh, oh my gosh. Well, you're in a very good position for it, but I don't know if I'll be able to join you in this if people are going to think that I did it.
Well, we look around, I mean, we could pick a spot where you could duck down really fast. To be clear, please don't feel pressured into lobbing pine cones at potentially undeserving strangers. That's just how I plan to spend my Thursday afternoon. But
No, let's
um,
no, let's do it. Where shall we go?
I mean, do we want to roll survival to find
Yeah.
a good place to be horrible?
Yeah, I got a unnatural 20, so
All right, I'll roll TOC for the hell of it. Let's see, survival 14.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that wherever you pick with your unnatural 20, they just sort of park the pitchfork again.
Uh-huh. Uh yeah, I think uh I don't know. He um you know what? He might end
Wait,
up just being farther up in the tree. I'm just gonna with that roll, I think I'm just gonna say that he manages to get higher up into the tree, so he's literally hidden inside it. And so TOC can kind of just do whatever from there. Um,
there's a perfectly
pitchfork or not.
professor shaped. Oh, sorry.
No, yes, continue.
There's a perfectly professor shaped branch. It's just perfectly from the audience point of view, he's perfectly obscured, and so that means that no one else in Inkwell can see him. Yeah, TOC will sort of move the pitchfork up higher.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. That's
Mm.
perfect. All right, so they are perching in a tree. uh,
Yeah, it's in order to sort of help the professor get a little bit of sign language immersion going.
mm-hmm.
They're signing to him about the perfect candidates for pine coning, litterers, people who are mean to strategically placed children to
mm-hmm.
show the audience that they're not nice people.
Right. Yeah. 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 People who are ignore their pets, stuff like that.
Yes.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah, I think that there's comfortable moment of silence as they both wait holding pine cones like children.
oh, I love it. Very good.
Mm.
Oh man.
I think TUC will eventually glance down at the professor or up. I don't know where the pitchfork is exactly relative to him, but um they'll uh they'll both sign and write. So you said that you got some cultural perspective?
Oh, yes. Um, uh, yes, there was, I had met some, half-toons, and, I was, uncertain as to why they would want to hide that, fact about themselves, but, I was very quickly informed that they had very good reason, but I didn't get a chance to hear what that was until recently. There's there'd been a sort of ongoing, not misunderstanding, but a bit of enmity between them, with sort of their different natures. A real kind, particularly thinking of Toonkind as well as not fully real or legitimate, but it was the events of 2 years ago that I was missing out on, when things rather came to a head, when there was a murder and a train exploded.
So he just looks at him like, a train exploded?
Yes, there was. It was called. What was it called? The Taffy Train Express. Um, there was. It was sabotaged by the murderess Dora Z. Scales, apparently a very famous real kind actress, who was invited for this fact as a guest of honor on the train's first on its first trip out, but she rather bitter about Toons for her own stupid racist reasons, murdered a perfectly innocent man on the train and also set the train to explode. Thankfully, I think there was only the one casualty, although one of the members did seem to go missing for quite a long time. But yeah, I didn't really understand the tension between real kind and Toonkind, and the exact reason between the different spellings of the word real kind, REAL and REEL, until earlier today, actually.
Mm. TUC looks down at their feathers, which are, as always, some of them have like a cartoonish outline and some of them just look, real kind.
Mm-hmm.
And they just sort of like, huh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened. I wish I'd known sooner. But at least I understand now.
Mm. Well, if it makes you feel better, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Ah.
I was not out and about 2 years ago, so I don't feel too self-conscious about it, but good to know. That's all horrifying.
It is. It is. Oh, that's not the worst part. Do you want... He pauses. Do you want to hear the worst part?
Absolutely.
The actress,
Yeah.
Dora Z. Scales. You were saying something?
I was going to make the comment that TFC, like, their manner is like, this is horrible. Keep going.
Yeah. The actress Dora Z. Scales, after murdering one Victor Tim, then he was a UPAan, and of course, tunes are made of ink. She drank his remains.
Sorry, the PUC is like, that sort of like, neck scrunch.
The what?
So, like the neck scrunch where like,
the scrunch.
Seals or
Yes.
birds, like.
Yes, yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like,
Does she
like,
scrunch in or out? I have to know.
um, probably in, just sort of like furthering the potato shape that is their being. Yeah, they're just like, ugh. And they like shovel their feathers like, well, glad I can say definitively what the worst thing I've heard today is.
Yes. Uh,
They're just like, I mean, listen, dead bodies happen if they happen, but that's ridiculous.
I know, isn't it? At least she was brought to justice.
Mm,
Last I heard, and he sort of like, uh, he like leans from where he is in the tree to sort of glance at the library. It says last I heard, been doing a bit of digging since earlier today. Last I heard, she was in I think the highest security prison in possibly all of Inkwell.
I mean, if she's going around drinking people in some sort of horrible like as a smoothie or like no, wait, please don't answer that.
I think she's a lich now too.
Mm,
So that's probably not unrelated.
I mean, they sort of shrug like it's I mean, to be fair, I know plenty of necromancers who go around not drinking people with fantastic success.
That is fair. That is fair.
Mm, like it's yeah, they like I'm dying because like me author like am super into like the true crimes like podcasts and shit.
Mhm.
So like this sort of like horrified fascination of like one part empathy, one part holy shit is
Mhm.
like, all right, I didn't expect to project this onto TOC today.
Mhm. Uh-huh. Uh
God.
um the professor just sort of like shakes his head like, well, yeah, so that's the worst bit. Uh the best bit is perhaps that I heard all of this from a 6-year-old homicide detective.
TOC just sort of looks at him like, uh, would you do you want to unpack that piece by piece or elaborate or how are we explaining this?
He just he shakes his head again, just sort of like in a sort of like it's just not right sort of way, and just
Mm.
um he says the kid just says that he keeps witnessing the homicides and the police can't get him to leave the crime scene, so he solves them.
TOC is just like, that honestly sounds like most of the 6-year-olds I know.
He is half toon, if that makes any difference, but I still I don't. It's just not right.
I mean, well, you surely know that the age of majority is 5 here, right?
I yes for yes, but he sort of like pauses. He says yes. However, this this person is. I know for a fact that he is half human. What difference exactly that makes, I do not know for sure. But also, I um, I was able to get to know him well enough that he is just 6.
Mm.
He is absolutely a child.
yeah, they kind of sigh, like, yeah, that's the thing about uh, this place is it's safe and there's always happy endings, but um, whatever comes before the happy ending doesn't fucking spare anyone.
No, no, it doesn't seem to. No, it doesn't
Mm,
seem to. I'm gonna have a word with that lad's brother.
mm.
Cause I noticed he dodged my question about legal guardians too.
TUC just sighs, like, oh god, one of those, huh?
Mm-hmm.
TUC's like, well, I mean, they actually, they pull out, yeah, they pull out, a stack, they pull out a folder full of, like, a stack of papers. And they rifle through them until they find the one that they're looking for, and they go, well, I mean, you should probably know about these. And they're offering the piece of paper out to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he takes it, gives it a look.
Yeah, they are adoption papers for one Marigold. Um,
Marigold. What?
and you can see that there is a signature that looks like Marigold and sort of a jagged TOC. And then there's like little like very long series of check marks that's like father, mother, Ren, sibling, brother, sister, uncle, weird aunt, wine aunt, like, and then
Yeah.
at the end there's just sort of like there's one that's just family,
Uh huh.
like doesn't have to be any label in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just sort of like give him a second to peruse and they go, yeah, I have way more sets of this form than I am comfortable admitting. So
I
not just for my daughter, for various people.
see. Yes, Scribbles told me about found family paperwork. In fact, I think he's. If this is the same Marigold, I think I know Marigold's tutor.
Oh yes, I'm pleased to hear that you know Scribbles. We're co-parents. Yes.
Ah, so he did go through with it then, huh?
Hmm. They nod like yes. Scribbles is a very good person to know. Uh, they are a little bit in hot water with them right now, but they may or may not bring that up.
Uh huh.
And they look. You roll an insight on the chicken.
Yeah. Okay, that is a 16.
A 16. Okay. They have a very odd expression on their face, which is one part sort of tired and worried, but also sort of mischievous,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, do you want to know a secret?
Of course.
And you're not going to tell anybody.
Oh, I won't tell anyone.
Are you going to tell Seeker?
Uh, no.
They hold out their feather for a pinky promise.
Oh gosh. Um. Uh. The professor holds his out but doesn't link it with TOCs yet. He says, now I've made one of these, but just I've just know that I've seen what happens when these go wrong.
TOC just stares at him like, do you mean the old superstition about your finger falling off?
Oh, superstition, nothing. No, if it's, uh, if it's, not only did the person's finger fall off, but, now it may be because the two people who made it were both half Toon, but, one of them nearly died?
Mm, TOC puts their wing down, like, okay, I will take your word as a gentleman.
Thank you.
Or your word as a time traveler if you don't want to be a gentleman. That's fine.
Both, either.
Mm. And they shuffle through the folder, which is again different versions of this found family paperwork. Uh and they pull out actually an unsigned paper that doesn't have any signatures on it at all, but it
Mm-hmm.
is partially filled out for one seeker.
Mm-hmm.
And they give it to you to peruse, and they go, "It's I haven't spoken to him about this yet, so I'm serious. I don't plan to for at least a few months, if not years. But yeah, this is on the radar."
He nods his head slowly. They you don't have to a person doesn't have to not have other family for this to apply.
I mean,
They don't have to necessarily be an orphan.
no, I mean it. Like they look like that's an odd question. Um,
He says
I
because
mean,
there are other places uh, that would require such a thing for similar arrangements.
mm, well, it's not necessarily for parenthood, like it shows. Like part of what will discuss with Seeker, should he agree with uh I agree to undergo this, is what capacity he'd like me to fulfill. It I can be his Ren, I can be his grand Ren, I can be, labelless, just someone who cares about him very much and would like to be able to visit him in the hospital when he winds up there.
He does laugh a little at that. Um, I see. I'm glad it does work that way here.
Mm.
If I hope that he accepts when you do when you are able to discuss this with him. If
Mm.
it's any consolation, uh, I think uh, I think he has at least one living family member, but I don't know where she
Mm.
is now.
They nod. Yes, it's mm, like I said. I have the strangest feeling that giving this to him today would do far more harm than good, and I will wait until that changes.
The
But I'll go ahead.
yeah, no, he just nods. He says, "I that that's probably for the best.
Mm.
Especially," and he just sort of trails off a little bit. Um, and then he says, "Well, yeah, as someone who's spent a decent amount of time with him, You're probably right on that count.
Could we roll insight on that sort of that falter?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you want to, you absolutely may.
Yeah, a 14.
Yeah, 14. Something has happened to Seeker that the professor knows about, and he doesn't know if you know about it. So he's not saying anything yet.
Mm, yeah, you like there's chicken eyes boring into your soul. Like they very slowly write. The other night, I and a few friends, it's a long story, found Seeker wandering the streets alone with a bag of valuables over his shoulder. Apparently, trying to do the please mug me dance in the middle of Toontown. Um, and he was praying for guidance. I don't know what to do with that boy. It pushing him only seems to hurt.
The
What happened, Professor?
Yeah, the professor looks pained. He runs a hand through his hair, and he says, he like leans back against the tree, and he says, uh, Seeker, we know each other through a small group of people who know a child named Bevan. There was a whole conspiracy. Bevan was being hunted. There was a cannibal involved. There were quarry involved. One of the quarry, without asking, possessed Seeker for not quite 24 hours, and I'm ashamed to say that I did not notice until it was pointed out by another member of the party. By then it had been most of the day, and the quarry had pretended to be Seeker for a long measure of that time, and had just had only just sort of broken their disguise. And but even from that, even once we knew, it took maybe an hour before we could actually get it out of him. And he was very much shaken afterwards. I think there was even a layer to his fear, to his reaction that that I don't fully have context for. I think Sammy might know. I'm not sure though, but there seemed to be another layer of he sort of half shrugs, trauma that made it even worse than it already was. So, and he sort of looked up. He has gone through uh, a terrible experience recently, and he tends to, I'm sure you know already, tends to hide such things, say that he is fine, and doesn't seem to be very good at taking the time to take care of himself.
Mm. I do know that. I spent the better part of an afternoon tracking him down with the journeyman for that very purpose. He when we found him, we we basically didn't force him to stay over, but we didn't take no for an answer either. Oh, that was the wrong night to introduce him to the god. Fuck. Um, and they look down and they have been pulling a pine cone apart with their wings, just sort of out of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he asked us to, if he was not acting himself, to hit him over the head.
He would. He would. There were too many tells. And he just looks really like regretful and uh guilt stricken. He says, I don't. There's honestly no excuse for my having not caught it. We knew it was a probability. Even I had checked the night before when we met. I had checked for intruders of the mind. I I I I I I knew there was a possibility that one of us would have an extra passenger hanging along unseen, but somehow they got in even after I checked, and I should have known. I should have picked it up. I
Piercy it tugs on his coat a couple times, and if he's sort of caught in like a little bit of a spiral, like they will jerk until he is like almost falls off the branch.
mm-hmm.
Like, look at them; they're trying to sign at you.
Yeah, he
Um,
was a little bit, and he does stop and look back up at TOC.
they very gently, firmly say the hardest part of kids is understanding when you can't protect them. It's not nice and it's not fun, and it will never stop hurting, but it's part of it. I'm sorry that happened, but it's not your fault.
Yeah, he just sort of he looks upset and he looks away. Uh, a little bit of frustration uh, in his expression. Um,
Yeah, they nod. They don't begrudge him that. They they start to sign something and then they put their wings down. Mm, you can't you can't stay here in this. You can't hold on to your guilt forever. It's just it's not how it works. He's going to need you again. And you need to be there, not here.
You're right. You're right. But at least for the ones who can't. He sort of he tugs at his hair and he says, Seeker isn't technically Seeker is not a child, as much as he is to us. But you know what I mean. But
Mm.
but I can at least, I've decided for myself a long time ago not to travel with children anymore. I attract too much danger, and it isn't worth it, even if I let them know the stakes, show them what could possibly happen.
Because their love for you overrides any fear that they might have.
He hangs his head.
They like it's awkward because you're a much bigger person than they are, but they sort of that sort of bracing back rub.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they know, buddy.
But yeah, he straightens up and shakes his head and he says, I don't travel with children anymore. I can't.
That is understandable. It part of the reason that I didn't pry into what exactly happened to Seeker was because I was fused at the time, and
You were what?
it's this is new to me, so please don't take this as gospel, but it's a magic thing where there's many people and they become one person, and you're all sort of the one person.
His eyes kind of widen a little bit, and he says, not okay, so this is not, at the same time, this is not reincarnation, this is a
No, yes,
simultaneous. Okay, yes. Do
sort
you.
of like a Jaeger situation. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay, yes.
Pacific Rim exists in all universes now.
Yeah, he seems to be following.
um, but yeah, they like for a second they sort of grinned because yeah, that was actually pretty great. Um, but they sober and they say, my 15-year-old was one of the other two.
Oh.
So yes, it's and I thought that I could protect her a little, keep her from that stress, but now a few days later, it found out that um the person who burned down her amusement park that was originally her forest.
Uh.
No, hang on. and they rub their little forehead like the forest burned down. It turned into amusement park that used their souls as fuel. That
Oh,
got destroyed by the god. The god was almost killed by the guy, and the guy is potentially coming for my daughter. There we go.
oh,
All ironed out.
oh no. Oh, oh no.
Also, apparently, she didn't tell the other parents because I knew and didn't tell them because I thought that it had come up. Um, it spooked the hell out of Scribbles.
I, I can imagine that they were. Oh no, how long?
Well, I found out.
Not that it matters, but
I mean, let's see. I spoke to Scribbles today, and
no, how long were they uh how long was Marigold kept in that place?
I try not to think about it. And the body that she habits, the picture that is on the form that I showed you,
Mm-hmm.
that body is killing her. It's still feeding off her soul.
Oh.
So, and her choices were a dying god who may or may not be off on a suicide uh, run for this person as we speak, or the dead god who is reliable but a bitch. So that's been my Thursday.
Oh, dear.
And they shrug like, yeah, kids will get you.
Yeah, he shakes his head. Oh, if it were up to me, it wouldn't. You wouldn't have to rely on either of the gods. Uh,
Yeah, TUC actually looks around, um, and like because there's a possibility that one of the gods may just show up,
ah!
and they do want to just sort of have a projectile on hand when that happens.
Oh!
Actually, you can roll an insight check.
Yeah! Uh, 7. That's not
Seven.
great.
They're looking around, just sort of this weird, like expectant look on their face, like not fear, but like sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Hmm.
You don't know what that's about.
Yeah. What, are they summoned by name or something?
Well, they don't have a name anymore. But they do wellness checks pretty frequently, and they do tend like to pop up whenever I talk about them.
Oh, good grief. Oh,
Yeah, it's a problem.
that's
I
annoying.
They nod like it really is. Um, like they're not treating this individual with any sort of like fear or reverence. They're like more like a shitty roommate.
Mm-hmm. uh, hmm.
And yeah, they sort of like they relent with a sigh, just like, and that's just Marigold's things. I I have other kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh dear.
Mm. but it's worth it because I get to listen to secret stories, and I get to go to the movies with Marigold, and I get to watch them become what they will be.
Yes. Even if, stars forbid, but with these two, who knows? Even if, stars forbid, you outlast them.
That's already happened more times than I like to think about. I consider myself used to it.
So do I.
He gets a very awkward pat on the back, like, yep, life sucks.
Yeah.
I think they like sort of like um they take their pine cone and lob it, and in the distance there's sort of a muffled ooh noise. And they look at him and they go, "Do you want to talk about it?"
Uh, well, I'm.
Oh, well,
Wait, what did you say?
it for a second I thought you were cutting in and out.
Oh,
It could have been my audio though.
I think I just paused. It's possible it was just the audio. I said, well, um, uh, the, uh, the professor, uh, hesitates and then he says, I, yes, but something, something you said reminded me. Do you, do you know about a place, um, called the Bog?
There is a crunch, and they look down startled. They have um the pine cone that they have been holding is now in several small pieces. Uh, they sort of dust off their wings and look at you. Yes,
He looks directly at TOC, but looks kind of like distant and like um, just sort of uh, puzzled. And he says, I met somebody who has a similar. I'm not sure how to describe it, but as a similar temporal aura as you do. Um, that is sort of something's very strange about your place in time, and your place with time. But I thought it was just you until I met this other person, and they said that it was because of the place they were from, and they said it was called the Bog. Um, do you do you know anybody named Pete Moss?
they they hesitate and they say like very small, hesitant movements. Describe her,
Um,
please.
Rubber hose. Sort of a Well, I don't. They were on the younger side when I met them 50 years ago. Um, they were they uh, calling themselves, or well, uh, they were going by Professor Pete Moss, as a matter of fact, although they seemed to imply that they would lose their title uh, rather soon. Um, they sort of looked like the sort of person that you would find working in a garden. Um, they were rather uh, headstrong, a strong sense of justice. Um, I think they. What did they do? They. I think they might be a. Oh, I'm not sure what class they are. They were able to summon plants, and I think very shortly turn into a bird of some sort. I forget if it was a dove or a magpie or something, some small bird. They might be a druid or a ranger. I don't know.
They this chicken has been on such a face journey. While you've been talking, like they don't. There's no recognition in their face of the name, but like certain details, like working in a garden, being bits about her personality. Rubber hose, like there's sort of like this sort of thin, desperate hope. But that sort of settles down into like a dark neutrality as you talk about like plant powers and turning into things, and they shake their head and they go, no, my she was a necromancer, my girl. She was a good one though.
I see.
She always had little skeletons that she'd keep as friends.
Huh.
It sounds so much like her though. So much like her.
She did say, well, I don't know. Maybe she said she was from this place, the bog, and well, we uh, we stole something from the library, and we had to hide from the police, and we hid in the ellipsis, and she really did not take well to the fact that it's a time machine. Really, really, really did not like that fact. Because, well, I'm sure you understand, given the trauma of the bog, where time, it seems, is broken, and they described seeing loved ones either trapped, unable to age rapidly,
Wait, what?
skip. Hmm?
I I mean the bog is bad. It's hellish, but that is all extremely new to me. I When did you say you met this individual?
Approximately 50 years ago. Uh,
That
that is, in time, not for me. For me, it was a couple months.
okay.
But in Inkwell, about 50 years ago.
Okay, that hopefully it wasn't her then, because well, I've already told you I don't know how old I am, but
Mm.
and they are trying really hard to calm down and not cause a scene.
Mm.
Um, like they're like breathing very carefully, not too slow, not too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the bog was most dangerous in the time I knew it because it was magic without purpose. It was memories and a little bit of time magic, but you just got caught. And if you couldn't get uncaught, then there you stayed. And all the different mutations that happened because of wild magic were able to take you off as you pleased. I mean, it's. But then there was the god, and I I'm sorry, I don't have answers for you. Um,
Well, that's all right. I'm sorry I don't have definite answers for you. It's uh, y-
Thank you for the lead.
you're
Pete,
you're missing somebody.
they look up at him.
How did
Just
you how how did you what were you before? How did you get separated?
I was me and my sisters were farm animals, ordinary ones,
Hmm.
nothing much to speak of at all.
Mm-hmm.
And we were owned by a farmer, and his niece would come and take care of us. She and her best friend would always tag along. This very little uh, child always they were like siblings, but real kind little satyr. And they would come and tell us stories, and they'd get into scraps and come hide in our coop. And they were young and delightful. And the people around them, not all of them were bad, but most of them could not be relied on.
Hmm.
They just couldn't be. And the farmer, well, chickens, when they're older and they stop laying eggs, they there's only really one fate for them.
Mm-hmm.
I escaped, my sisters did not, and my girl caught me up and ran into the forest with me and hid me. And I stayed and I survived in the forest until I didn't. And as I lay dying, the dead god found me.
Hmm.
And they heard my dying wish, which was to be family that my girl could rely on. She wouldn't be alone. She wouldn't be scared anymore. And they like in much they're like struggling not to go down their own spiral here.
Mm-hmm. I think the professor puts a hand out like next to them if they want to. He doesn't want to like pat them without asking, but he's offering.
Yeah, they sort of slump to the side so that like they're against his wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Or honestly, with them, it's probably like most of his forearm.
Yeah, yeah. He gives him a pat.
Mm, yeah, and an indeterminate time later, I stumbled out of the tree line and onto a beach, and in proper Einquillian fashion, onto a cruise ship that was full of good people. and I've gone from there, trying to find her.
Hmm. When was the cruise ship?
Late August. Yes, late August. So
Wow.
it's been a few months.
Huh. But that means if if they were. Oh.
They're like sort of waiting for him to digest his thought, like, oh, good, more bad news.
Yeah, no, he's sort of like he looks like he's sorry to like say this, but like um he says even if this isn't your um your girl, then if you were thrown to this time and they were thrown to that time, the disparity, it's hard to say where in that range, if in that range, um, your your girl would have ended up, assuming you all came from the bog in different ways.
I This is the first I've heard of anything like what she described to you in terms of dangers there. I mean, I was a chicken, so a lot went over my head. I'm very short, admittedly, but if something happened after I went into stasis, after I died,
Hmm.
and the dead god hasn't told me, I might murder them after all.
It sounds like quite a bit happened. It was described to me as a sort of um, a sort of uh, hellish wasteland where uh, time travel was um, uh, the ultimate evil.
I
Because.
mean,
Hmm?
oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, he just says because it uh, that that seemed to be what would cause what was causing um, the majority of the place's suffering and uh, and death when when uh, when it allowed for death.
They look hollow. They look up at him and they go, you never think about what happens after you die. It's always that sort of period on your point, a punctuation mark. There's your life, and then sort of this nebulous expanse. And you never think about what happens if you give everything you are and it's not enough. And Gribbles told me earlier that I wouldn't serve Marigold if I went after this person and died in the attempt, even if I brought them down with me. He said that it would be better to live for her, which I agree with him in principle, but
Mm.
well, I'm sure I don't have to explain how badly you want your family to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And even if this is a descendant or an ancestor, if this happened in my girl's lifespan, then none of the problems that I hope to solve would have gotten better. I failed.
Don't say that. He says that, but he doesn't really have there's not a lot of conviction uh in his voice or in his face.
Mm. Well, if I take some solace in, if my girl has a friend in you, then if she grew up to be Pete Moss, then surely she can't be alone. Surely she has some allies. I don't.
Oh, the professor flinches uh and looks away.
Mm. They just sort of like stared at him like, what? Hang on.
um
That was supposed to be the bright side.
yeah. Um uh he says very carefully, she does seem to have made it quite far in her life to be helping uh, other people um, who, who have been visited by misfortune. Uh, but while we parted on good terms, I later found a log, hers, in the library.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, yeah,
I'm so sorry.
it's okay. Hello. Hello, audience.
Hi, my little brother says hello and good night.
Aw, good night.
I'm so
um,
sorry, you were talking.
no, yeah, that's okay. Uh, he says, he says, we ended on, good terms, but, I found later in the library, a few months ago, her log, which had an entry in it, about me, um, uh, and and my ellipsis, listing us as allies. When I found it at the library, it had been that had been crossed off, and added was the note not to be trusted, and I do not know why. Um, but whatever I did to offend her, I'm sorry.
They they blink at you. They don't look angry, they look kind of puzzled. They go, if if this person was diligent enough to write down information about you, but vehement enough to recant that and say that you couldn't be trusted, why wouldn't she have written down what you did? That doesn't make sense at all.
He pauses and thinks. He says, I think it was the final entry in the journal, but even so, you have a good point.
Also, why is a personal journal in a library? They don't even keep dictionaries there.
I had assumed somebody had left it there. They were. That doesn't quite make sense either. It would have been. If anything, if somebody had found it, it would have been collected, archived for the police, if nothing else, because we stole from the library.
They they snort and they sign. That is actually a point in favor of her being my girl. She and her they would stash the books they got from the library in the coop. Um the smaller one, the one that I am hoping and praying is perfectly fine and having a wonderful life somewhere. That one, he couldn't touch iron, and he would just hold these books that were bound in iron to keep Faye away. And he wouldn't use a cloth, he wouldn't use gloves. She used to yell at him about it.
Oh,
So she would put them in the rafters where he couldn't reach.
this friend sounds like Seeker.
He does. I mean, if my girl was 50 years ago though, and Seeker's what, 21,
No,
then
that doesn't make any sense.
that would be ridiculous.
Hmm.
But yeah, they like the gears are turning. They're the unimpressive chicken gears are turning in their little chicken mind, but
Mm-hmm.
um they sigh and they go, I thank you for this. This is more than I have found in months and months of constant searching. Even if it's not her, then it's if
So
she's from the bog, she may have known her. She might.
it's a lead. It is. It's a lead.
Mm.
I'm glad it's of use to you, even if it's uh, n- no consolation.
If you find this person again,
Hmm.
if you find her again, or you find anyone who's even remotely like her, can I know you don't take young people as companions in your travels, but at least check in on her for my sake.
I can do that.
Thank you. That means more than I can convey.
He smiles.
They sort of look down at the pine cone in their hand and they say, I thought more people would walk by than they have.
uh, maybe they're going in the front entrance of the library rather than the back today.
Bastards. I'm sorry, you said you robbed a library? Why?
Oh, some puffed up suit was insisting that some um, was it the library? No, it was the library. Insisting that there was an item that was going to be put in the museum, and Pete Moss was reminding him that the museum, by the rule, was only for items that were no longer being used. Um, and it seems that this artifact was, in fact, meant to still be in use by some group of people in, I think, Faruma, who used it to control the weather, uh, to to survive, to ensure that they had a harvest, something like that. They seem to be gems that had some sort of atmospheric influence, but
Hmm.
but the suit insisted that they weren't being used, and Pete Moss insisted that they only weren't being used because they'd been taken from the people that they belonged to, and well, I sided with Pete Moss, and once the suit left, we promptly picked ourselves up and snatched the jewels.
Hmm. And you hid in your box.
Yes, it was across the street. It was convenient.
And like they sort of like tilt their head to the side, like, and because you were no longer in their line of sight, magically they were like, ah, they're no longer here. We should go to a different street corner to check.
Oh, no. No. The box. No, I dematerialized. I teleported to a different place. Well, and time, but that was um that wasn't intentional. But no, I teleported it into the forest. Somewhat. What is it? West of Toontown, thereabouts.
They're nodding like, right. All right.
So we
Okay.
disappeared. That's why they were unable to give chase.
Oh, naturally.
Well, we disappeared, and also I think uh, ended up some 30 years in their future.
Logical. You can roll an insight if you like.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, they're mostly fucking with you.
He's
Like they until such time as they see you time travel, they're not going to fully believe you, but like it's they were like they weren't this skeptical when you were talking about meeting someone 50 years in the past. They're fucking with you.
yeah. Yeah, he was a little unsure. But yeah. Uh, he just sort of looks amused.
Mm. I, and like something kind of occurs to them and they blink and they go, I forgive the impertinence, but are you okay?
Oh, uh,
You ran into a person who apparently reviled a huge part of your
oh,
existence,
oh,
and then found out sometime later that you're she apparently wound up reviling you anyway.
oh, I, I was, I was a little offended at the time, but I given the given her story and well, I mean, I certainly know firsthand the damage that temporal magics can cause. I mean, that's I can hardly disagree with that. And the sheer terror they displayed, it was hard to be too offended, really. But no, and the the note later, um, well, with that, I just sort of uh, it wouldn't be the first time somebody changed their mind about me. I wasn't really. I was disappointed.
Mm. Can we roll insight on that?
Yeah.
12.
Hmm. Um. He's he's telling the truth. He it maybe bothered him more than he's letting on.
Mm.
But um, but he's also not unfamiliar with people perhaps finding out more about him and then deciding that they don't like him.
Mm. Well, you've been kind to my kids whenever you've found them. So, it for whatever it's worth, my mind is pretty much made up. And I am too old to change it easily.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm.
Although, he sort of shakes his head like, nah, that's sort of silly. um, he says, although you'd be surprised sometimes, even even at our ages, how easily a change of mind can come. And there seems to be like an inside joke that you don't really have the like context for.
Mm.
But he seems to find it pretty funny.
I think. Mm, I feel like I'm cheating here because hey, I'm a Doctor Who fan. TFC
Uh-huh.
is obviously not,
Uh-huh.
but he did make a crack about reincarnation of
He
one
did.
sort of another earlier.
Yeah, he did definitely mention that as a thing when they talked about fusion. He was like, that's not a reincarnation thing, is it? Um yeah, no, that's you may absolutely make a connection if you would like.
I'll put it up to an insight roll.
Okay.
10.
Mm.
Mm,
They can ask.
yeah, they bring their wings up to sign, and then they drop them, and then they bring them up again, and they drop them.
What?
Are you making some sort of crack about reincarnation? You mentioned earlier. You seem very concerned.
Oh, oh, uh, er, sort of. Um, yes. He sort of just like, he, uh, he looks like amused and sort of like at a loss out of how to explain, and sort of like holds his hand up and sort of like turns it in a like so gesture, and he says like, I the race I'm from, we don't really we don't exactly reincarnate as much as we get a sort of second chance um, with regards to and he sort of pulls at his hair just a little bit with regards to death, but we keep our minds, only we change a little bit. It's complicated. It's not exactly reincarnation, but it's oh, there isn't a good word in common for it.
Perhaps this isn't also the word you're looking for, but a sort of generation process,
Uh,
but over and over. A generation that happens over and over.
he just laughs and shakes his head. He says, "Well, we call it regeneration."
Oh, sure,
But
that works.
yeah, something like that.
Hmm. Well, and they like sort of lean back with like sort of a thoughtful look on their face, like, well, I've died the first time, and then technically on my little brother's roof. Then I guess technically also the night that I saw Seeker again, that was also pretty close. So I guess I could say that I've died 3 times. What about you?
Oh my goodness. Well, we are par for par in that case.
Oh Jesus. I was being facetious.
Oh. I
I mean,
just
no, I did technically die 3 times, but I was expecting to like shock and horrify you.
Oh, I'm afraid
I
not.
was not expecting samesies.
uh well, no. I mean, I'm rather appalled that you experienced that, because that's not typical of that's not a feature of your species exactly, as it is in mine. But no, and believe it or not, I just met a real kind fellow, Kalashtar, if you know the race, human if you don't,
Hmm.
who apparently has also died 3 times and come back all 3 times.
Well, I mean, I met a young man by the name of Arada. I think another one of Seeker's friends. But I assume that isn't who you're talking about.
I'm sorry. Did you? Are you implying that Arata has died?
I mean, not that I know of. I hope not.
Uh. Oh,
I
oh,
he's the
Kalashtar.
only.
Oh, that. Okay, yes. No, it's not him. No. I should hope not. No. It was somebody
Thank
else.
God. Too many of my loved ones have died.
Yes. No, not him. No, no. No, somebody else.
Hmm.
Some, some other person who, uh, well, the, actually, now that I think about it, they're rather more connected than well, the person, uh, their name was Gilbert, and as I mentioned, they're, a Kalashtar. Um, they, uh, Gilbert, that is, seems a decent chap. Um, it's rather odd that he's been died, that he's been killed and brought back 3 times, but his quarry, he was separated from his quarry which is odd enough in itself, but you see his quarry is the one that possessed Seeker. He was trying to get back to his body.
Again, the face journey on this chicken.
Yeah.
I think, like, they sort of, like, shake their head, like, we're not unpacking that. We've done enough. We have done so much this fine afternoon. And I think that instead of answering you, they start counting on their fingers, like, okay, 1 for Marigold, 1 for Nebula, 3 for me, 3 for you. That brings us up to 8.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to decide if we get a free soda yet. Out of universe, Avi's in the chat. And technically he's saying that Arata has brought us up to 10, so I think that we do have the free soda. But TOC doesn't know that.
Oh, man.
God. I put my head in my hands.
Oh, man.
I think that, like, they look down at, like, they probably fidgeted most of the pine cones into, like,
just bits.
Pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they go, we have 2 options. One is to comport ourselves with dignity and go get something warm to drink and talk about things that aren't people drinking other people or getting possessed or dying multiple times or us dying multiple times. Or we could go pick up these pine cones and move to the front of the library.
I'm gonna roll. We're going to get more pine cones and go to the front of the library.
They nod. The pact is sealed.
And I think that's probably more or less where we should leave it.
Yep. 2 old people talk about horrible things in a tree.
TOC and Professor sitting in a tree. CRYINGG. It's an ING. Oh, God. Okay, alright, okay. Right, I'm still recording.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.